But first of all, who are you?
Who are we?
Are we live?
Yeah,
We're on.
you're live. We're live. We're recording. This is all good. Clay and Nancy Deutsch. Where are you from?
Yeah.
Who's going first? Go ahead. You're on.
Okay. I'll go and you can collect your thoughts.
All right.
So you'll
All
sound
right.
better than I will. But no, my name's Clay Deutsch. I'm a 65-year-old guy. I grew up in the Midwest. Learned to sail on the Great Lakes. I kind of got lucky. My dad was a very blue-collar guy who got sent to college by the Navy. The Navy plucked him out of Pittsburgh, where he was in an immigrant family building landing craft for World War II. And he was a really smart kid. He had never really seen the water. He was hauling water buckets to the guys building the landing craft. And next thing you know, he's at Brown University, courtesy of the Navy. And it set in motion for him, a lifelong just love of the water, love of the sea. And he was incredibly grateful. And so I got lucky. When I was born, my mom tells a story that I was an infant and they had me in a little carry-all. This is before car seats. It was like a little bassinet. And they had an 18-foot sailboat that had a little cubby cabin and they would wedge me below. So, I mean, I have zero memory of that, but I kind of grew into it. So I feel very fortunate. I got lucky that my dad discovered the water, and everywhere we lived, even if there was no water within 150 miles, he had a boat. We'd drive to the water, and that was our family. That was like our family thing. And so that's kind of the definition of my relationship with the water. I was a business person. I had a long career. I was out of sailing for about 20 years in the middle while I was working really hard. And then I got back into sailing. That's how I met my wife, which is the two best things that came out of sailing were screwing around with guys like Ben, who became like virtual family for me. And, I met my wife, who got me off the streets and kind of cleaned me up. And, so I'll stop there. The rest is history. But we had a lot of fun along the way, and very grateful for sailing. And the only last thing I'll say, just kind of in memory of my dad, I'm extremely grateful for everyone who serves, and I want to give a big thank you to the warriors. And pretty much anyone who walked in those shoes, I'm profoundly grateful. So, thank you.
Sorry, I got something. I'm looking over here and I'm seeing this.
Nancy, where'd you go? Oh, Nancy. Nancy's getting a visual aid. She's getting a prop.
I'm getting
She's
a
getting
prop.
a prop. Here we go. She's got a prop.
Is she gonna get a map out or something? This is
No.
where I'm from.
I don't know if you can see this. This is my dad. This is
Oh, cool.
Tom Hazelhurst.
Looks like Gregory Peck, for crying out loud.
He lives in one of our boat models over here in the dining room.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Still sailing?
Unfortunately, he's gone. So
He passed away a couple years
we got
ago,
left.
but anyway, he was talking about, this is how we got into sailing. You got into sailing that way, so did I. I born and raised by this amazing guy who, at the age of 11, his parents, his mother was a bank teller and his father was a fireman, bought him a beetle cat to keep him off the streets of Providence. And they joined him to the Edgewood Yacht Club, and he became an avid sailor and loved it. And I won't even go into the whole long story of it, but he became Hall of Fame, Brown University Hall of Fame, both of our dads that went to Brown, but Brown University Hall of Fame for sailing.
That's where all the good guys go.
I have this thing for Brown guys. Brown University Hall of Fame and Collegiate Hall of Fame, and he won the right to go to the Olympics. And it's like, and he adopted me, not adopted, I mean, obviously I'm his real daughter, but I mean, he said.
And served in the Navy, same story.
And he
It's kind of
served in
funny.
the Navy as well.
Navy put him through Brown.
And he actually called me the best son he never had because he had 3 daughters. And he took me sailing, and he's the one who got me going on it. And he took me on all sides of boats, and then, so yeah, and I've done a ton of sailing in all different, from little boats, from laser sailing all the way up through a ton of J24 sailing, 4 or 5-time women's world championship.
Five-time world champion in J24.
Yeah. And
if they gave out rings, you'd just be sitting here doing one of those
Oh,
things,
yeah.
Nancy. You know, like you're like the Patriot.
Yeah.
Oh man. So you're a 5-time world champion in the J24?
in the women's division, we'll say, not in the, when you go to the world championship, that's the co-ed version. No, we didn't do well there, but we did it.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't matter where you filled those things. There's always 2 or 3 teams that could kick everybody's ass in the world. I mean, if you can go and win a championship like that, you pretty much got it.
Well, that's
awesome.
That was like the fleet. That's when all the rock stars were doing the J24 stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got asked, I got asked to go do bow on a Swan 68. And
Yeah.
I am like, no. I mean, I've done bow on a lot of different boats, but nothing that big. And I'm like, no, I am not doing bow on a Swan 68. And I got introduced to Tony, who was the captain at the time. And Tony was so sweet and nice. And he goes, oh, you can do this. I'll back you up and blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget, I called, Kenny Reed is one of my closest friends. We've grown up together. Our parents were great friends. We cruised together when we were little kids and all that. I asked Kenny, I said, Kenny, what do you think about me doing bow on a Swan 68? He goes, you're crazy. Don't you do it.
You went for the honest opinion?
Honest reaction.
He just went, you're absolutely right.
I don't know but hey, it worked out.
Well, I just said, you know what, it's an opportunity. I'm right here. The regatta was here in Newport. It wasn't like I had to go anywhere. And so it was a home game. And I just said, all right, I'll give it a whirl. And I had a lot of backup and all that. And that's where it started with this guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the things about these interviews that I always find really interesting is the different perspectives and different avenues that people are in sailing. And obviously that's your upbringing, getting on the water from your parents, a family activity, into the competitiveness. But the juggling your professional life with sailing life. And obviously, Clay, you said that you took kind of like 20 years in the middle where you worked in the professional world and professional sense and then got back into sailing. Explain a little bit about that, getting back into it, like as a boat owner at that time, right? Or did you come back and crew and then decide to buy a boat? Or was it a buy a boat, we're going to go do this thing? Like, what was your idea there?
Yeah, I mean, my idea in hindsight was kind of naive, but my idea was to get back into it with my boat. So just through a quirk of history that I won't bore you with, I became a skipper at a pretty early age. I had like an older mentor patron. I mean, quite older. When I was a teenager, this guy was like a 60-year-old guy. And he was a big businessman. I didn't appreciate it at the time. I had no idea what he did. But he essentially gave me his boat to sail. And he kind of supported the whole thing. And so in hindsight, I mean, I hope I wasn't selfish about it, but I really liked running a boat. And then I got my own boat and I was doing my thing. And then I literally got out of it cold turkey when I was about 23 or so. And I was out of it for like 20 years. And meanwhile, the whole time I was working in Pittsburgh. I lived in Pittsburgh. No water, no anything. I was working my tail off. I was flying literally all around the world doing stuff. And my recreational activity was skiing with my kids and fantasizing about getting back into sailing. So I kind of built my dream boat 100 times in my head. And that's how I jumped back in. And I was so naive, Ben. I'm like Rip Van Winkle. I missed like the whole professionalization of sailing. I missed the introduction of big money. I missed all modern technology. So I'm literally like Whip Van Winkle. I woke up in 1999 and I said, I got an idea. I'm going to build a 70-foot swan and I'm going to go sailing.
You went from a dinghy to a swan.
And up until, I think the biggest boat I ever drove was like I got to drive a 1-ton when I was a kid, but my regular boat was a 21-foot keel boat.
Yeah, those are similar.
And then I wake up and I've got this 70-foot swan and we're flying. I was cluelessly dangerous.
I've heard stories. I was not there the first year. Oh my God.
That was a good thing, probably. That's what, see,
you know,
Nancy, again, you came on when people knew that they needed you. Is when you're like, okay, look, we can't do this. We need somebody on the bow that knows what they're doing, and we need some people that can actually get us around the course. Jack is scaring us.
Yeah, but Ben, you were in the circle. I mean, you know what our deal was. I mean, I got very lucky. I got surrounded with really good people, you included, Nancy included. In hindsight, I mean, I was always probably the weakest link on the boat, which.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, but I always had people better than me around me, and I got really lucky in that regard.
No, the best thing we did was we always got people who we wanted to sail with. Yeah. Not necessarily, they had to be qualified to some extent for sure. And we gotta admit, we brought some people on board who've never sailed before. Way back in the early days, for sure. And we brought them on because they wanted to be there and we knew they were gonna work hard. And I think, well, I should say you especially at the very beginning, gave them an opportunity that was amazing and fantastic that they will never forget. And I think almost all of us who ever sailed, we sailed with 19 to, the early days was 21 people. We got it down to 19.
That was too many. 19 was.
We got it down to 19 and we were able to sail with that core group. We had probably a core group of 9? And then we had others that were rotated. And we had so many different regattas. Like one year, how many regattas? One year we had 11 major regattas. Like
yeah, it was crazy.
Literally all over the world. I don't know how.
Yeah, and that's so kind of in that realm. That's something that the warriors that probably haven't been around sailing very much. When I say that you've campaigned a boat, campaigning a boat is when you're talking about just on the east coast of the U.S. is one big feat. But you guys were talking about taking a 68-foot swan to almost every bucket list regatta / race week / anything around the world. And that was done in probably a period of 5 years, right? I mean, that was pretty intense. How did you get that much time off work?
It was 10 years. We had the boat for 10 years.
Okay.
Every other year she went to the Med because we wanted to do the Swan Worlds.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, how was it
She went to the Caribbean every summer.
I mean, luckily I was younger. I had a lot more energy because it required a lot of planning because I was still working hard. And, it's like anything in life though. I mean, for the warriors, it's probably like, I mean, it doesn't have near the nobility of life or death. It doesn't have the consequences of the military, but it is like planning. It's like planning an engagement. It's like, you pay a lot of attention to the logistics. My whole thing.
And you get a good team together. The
single most important thing I did was I paid attention to the team. And, whether it's a sport or a business or, I don't care what, it could be a church organization, it could be anything. At the highest level of life or death, it could be the military. It's all about the team. I mean, if you get a really good team of people together, you go into every engagement with a ton of confidence. And I used to jokingly say to my little circle on the boat, my goal was to go into every regatta knowing that we were only sailing against the top 20% of the boats because we had already out-prepared and outworked and kind of outthought and and out bonded. You know, we went into it with a team, and I know you can relate, Ben, because you were part of it. I mean, you saw the whole thing, and you've done it on your own as well. I know you understand how to form teams and how to prepare. And if you get that part of it right, even if the worst things imaginable happen, you're still in good shape.
Because you have a good team.
Yeah.
We've had every kind of breakdown. We've had every kind of F up on a boat you can imagine.
So we had a time in Sardinia where it was literally blowing 40 and they didn't cancel the race. They sent us out there anyway. And I gotta admit, under normal circumstances, as Ben knows me, chippy mom, I'm the cautious one. I'm like, all right, what the hell are we doing? Let's dial it back. I knew we had a good team on board and we could deal with it. I mean, I couldn't handle it. I mean, granted, you don't know what's gonna happen. There could be a major breakdown, which there were on other boats. Thankfully, we didn't have them.
There were 3 other Swan 68s. 2 were dismasted, and we won the whole thing. We won the over. I got this big Bulgari watch. The whole thing, it was hilarious. I mean, boats were being dragged in. 5 Swan 45s dropped their rudders. I mean, it was Armageddon. And you know, I was, truth be told, I'll confess, I was scared out of my mind. I mean, just the jibes were unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the boat's making freaky noises, and you know, pigs are flying and all kinds of stuff.
But the bottom line is,
We had a great team.
as Ben knows, if you put a great team together, which we did with that year with Defiance, with you in St. Bart's, and we won that event with you, Ben.
Yeah.
That was an amazing event. And
Even though
that was a boat. That was
I
a
wiped
charter
out the boat. You remember I wiped out?
That wasn't your boat. That was a charter boat. We all jumped onto a boat that we didn't know. And we went out and had a great time and kicked some ass. And then we just did that.
It's that network, right?
Yeah, and I mean, my message to the warriors, the beauty of sailing is, by the way, you don't have to go racing and rock and roll and all that. I've got a little Beetle Cat that I go out and sail on my own. I just go out and sail. I just go out and sail around the bay. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So you can take sailing as a form of just relaxation and mental therapy and regeneration. Or you can take sailing all the way to the high end of the adrenaline rush. But at the end of the day, it's just sailing. It's just sailing.
Yeah.
And it's endlessly fascinating. It's endlessly interesting.
Well, you learn something every time. Yeah.
But if for the warriors who really want to get into the competitive part, my advice is the way to really succeed in sailing is to build a great team. Just build a great team. Everything else, you know, we're not splitting atoms. Sailing can be as complicated as you want.
But have fun doing it.
It's not that complicated.
Well, yeah, I think one of the things we highlight here is that obviously this is one of the reasons why just talking to you guys, because out of anybody that's built teams in sailing, not only did we kind of make our mark, and you guys made your mark in a lot of different ways, not just down the water, but off the water. But you not only were you competitive, but you had a whole bunch of fun. And you don't have to have rock stars around to have fun. In fact, sometimes having too many rock stars or too many cooks in the kitchen turns out to be a pretty bad time for a lot of people, where at the end of the day, a lot of us that came sailing with Chippewa, everybody wanted to be on that boat because everyone was having a really good time and you won. So, you know,
we all knew our jobs. Everybody had a job and you stuck to your job. And we all wanted to win. Every single one of them in there wanted to win, so that we all performed at our peak. And I think if you can just find a group like that, you know, and meanwhile, then you get off the water and you have a blast too. I mean, as you know, we had all walks of life on Chippewa. We had, you know, this guy from Maine who lived in a trailer that we pulled on board. He never gone sailing before, but he was strong and we needed a grinder. We've had, you know, people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And what's so cool about sailing is nobody knows what your resume is.
We had some college athletes.
You get to go sailing with these people and you bond with them, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
what your background is.
We
Because the
had
fact is, you all have the same.
We had some guys who, I'm thinking of Tommy and Sammy, who were just great college athletes, had never really done any sailing. And they were just, but they were team guys. They were super athletes, super attitudes, super team guys. I don't know, is Warrior co-ed? As you know, I love having women on the boat. I just, in part because I had the hots for when I married her, but no, the most important thing, I just think there are great female sailors, and there's something about having a couple women on the boat that just creates a good mix. It kind of takes the testosterone down a level. I don't know. I like having a mix of people on the boat. Sometimes when you get 100%, like all pro sailors, all pro'd out, it can get a little too rocked up. You know what I mean? And I think.
Did you take that from your business side of things? I mean, obviously, building teams in business is getting success out of people in teams, getting people from all walks of life. I mean, do you feel like you grabbed that from your business side of things, or is that your upbringing, or what do you think that really brought you guys to building those teams?
I don't know. It was probably part business, part school, part being beaten up at recess. It was part sports. And I just think back, I mean, probably everyone on this call has been on good teams and bad teams. And we probably had good coaches and bad coaches. And we probably had, good captains and bad captains, or good leaders and bad leaders. We've had all the above. And I've certainly had all the above. And I think good teams, I think anxiety is the enemy of talent. I think you want to have butterflies in your stomach, but you don't want to have anxiety. I think egos are kind of the enemy of talent. I think if you could take all that BS and like throw it over the side and just have a really good bunch of mates.
And the bottom line is you want to have people you like to go sailing with. So we've got the CNC 30.
People who want to do well. The kind of unifying theme is just good people who want to invest in each other and just want to do well and don't want to put up a lot of drama, and just go out and get it done and feel good about it. And if you can achieve that, it's easy to describe, it's hard to achieve, but when you have those moments when it's all good, it's the greatest feeling in the world. It's the greatest feeling in the world. And you want to be part of that.
Well, and that's what I feel. So part of warrior sailing is we gotta, we have to start at a base, right? And I think a lot of people get into sailing where they don't actually get the base teaching. Like a lot of people don't get the basic level of sailing. And that's really, everybody that comes to our camps has to start at basic level. And it's 3 days on a J22 or sonar with a coach on board, 3 warriors, 1 coach. And we mix the teams in kind of where competitiveness, like if you want to be a rock star and race, you kind of get put on a boat with people racing, and we'll give you a coach that it relates to that. You want to go cruising with your family? Well, we got to get that mix in there as well, because a lot of sailing is not about racing, like you said earlier, and really getting them off of that base level and having them jump in. I think a lot of people who are on the call now have stuck with us, and now it's been 5 years, 6 years. We've had 450 plus warriors come to a basic training camp. That's different, 450. And from there, I've been slowly building my Navy and Army of warriors that have this base skill, but want to show up and really kick some ass. And how do you guys think they can, being from all over the country in different locations, because we have camps in all different locations, not really concentrated in different areas. Obviously, COVID puts a different spin on things. Let's just talk about what it's like if you don't have COVID. But how do you stay engaged, and how do you get involved in that network? How do we meet the Clay and Nancy's of the world? How do you do that on your own if you have a little bit of anxiety, like you said, about getting out and doing things?
Well, the first thing I'd say is any good person who wants to go sailing can go sailing. And part of it is just being uninhibited and
Don't be afraid of it.
yeah, don't be afraid of it. And, you know, sailing on the one hand, I understand it's intimidating. It's a little like being the newbie learning to ski, or being, you know, you feel like you're the only guy who didn't see the movie, right? And overcome that. I mean, I was kind of that guy when I moved to Newport. Even though I grew up, as I said, with my mom and dad sailing the Great Lakes, you know, I moved here. This is the land of America's Cup and pro sailors, and I was prepared to be intimidated. And I would say, first of all, most people in sailing are very welcoming.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody learned to sail once, right? Nobody was like born a rock'em jock'em sailor. Everybody learned to sail. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to say there are no jerks in sailing, but there are very few. There are very few.
And most are willing to help you out.
Most people
and if you
in
just
sailing
walk
are
around the
generous.
dock and say, I want help, you know,
And
do you have an idea about this? And most people will.
I think the
That's the
second
thing I love about sailors.
I think the second most important thing is to just gain comfort. You know, there are some hair-raising moments in sailing. And I think part of it is gaining complete confidence in your assets. Your assets in sailing are your boat, your mates, and your own personal knowledge. And you have a degree of choice with all three. I would never go sailing on a boat that scared me. I mean, do not put up with that. You know, have confidence and get to the point in sailing where you have confidence in the boat. The boat's your best friend, right? A good boat is going to save your life. A bad boat is going to put you in some bad situations.
Well, that means that's called preparation.
The most important thing is your mates. I mean, you know, go sailing with people who you have confidence in, and who, if things go pear-shaped or if things go bad, you know, you have confidence in the people around you. And the third thing is kind of personal accountability. I mean, it's a little on you, but you know, everybody on a boat is in a position to contribute something. And to me, the beauty of warrior sailing, I mean, there's kind of a basic skills element of what you're doing. And, you know, everybody wants to sail with a person who's basically competent and confident and all that. And
fun.
I'll stop there, but I mean,
And fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Gotta have fun.
Good.
Gotta have fun.
You can
That's
be
what sailing's all about, is fun, right?
You can be the most talented. You can be the most talented person in the world, but if you're toxic, most people will not want to sail with you. It's like, I don't want that on the boat, right? I mean, it's like, and I'm sure we've all been around Eeyore. Whatever our walk of life, we've all been around Eeyore, right? You could be the most talented guy.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're screwed. Oh man. Oh, this is horrible. Oh, you know.
Yeah, that guy gets flicked. That guy gets flicked. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't even know. I don't know if that person was ever allowed off the dock onto the boat. Was he or she? I don't think so.
I had a couple on ship one, not very many.
Yeah, you don't want.
It wasn't very long. I got to find the next
lots.
flight home.
I got one regatta, and then they were out.
Yeah. Well, and so that one of the things that I emphasize, and this is going back to the boat ownership and preparation, what you had talked about, is I emphasize on the first day of class and basic training, not just wind angles and kind of where we need to go and how to get the boat to go, but I put this acronym of OPB, which is other people's boats. and it can be a way of life, and it can be a way in which people can get really introduced to the sport. And my thing, and I've had warriors and they're on here, have gone and bought their own boat, or they arrived at the camp and already have one, and they say, okay, teach me how to sail. I'd like to go sailing because I just bought this 43-foot boat. You know, it's kind of like, ooh, you're not really going to like my first hour of talking about the fact you shouldn't go buy a boat. But for those that are still intrigued about ownership and boat ownership, is that I always tell people to go out and test the waters, figure out what you like and what you don't like in sailing, and that there's a lot of opportunities out there to jump on a bunch of different kinds of boats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you agree with that, being the person that pays the bills, that it's probably a good idea to use other people's boats at first?
Yes, you gotta test the waters. It's a cliche. You got to test the waters. You got to test the boats. You should go try out different types of boats before you realize, because I mean, like, we love monohulls. And now with all the catamaran thing, and I'm sitting, a couple of friends of ours who bought some catamarans recently, and I said, what do you think about that? He goes, no way. I'm like, but how do you know? You haven't had one. So that's the thing. I mean, I just think.
Well, and I like that you guys cruise on a powerboat, which is a good dance party platform as well. I've also danced on that boat.
Yeah,
but
and we just bought a Shield.
But you guys go cruising on a powerboat, right?
Yes.
So what's
Yep.
You're sailors, but what's the reason in the powerboat? Explain that one.
Well, I think part of it is, Nancy,
It's just the two of us.
It's just the two of us.
It's a 38-foot powerboat.
So
We
picture
can
it.
Narragansett Bay, New England, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. It's so easy to access to. Like, we can get to Nantucket in like 4.5 hours.
It's not even sailing. I would say to the guys on the call, I bought a Winnebago that floats. It's like an RV that floats, and it's a getaway. You know, Nancy and I just go camping on it. We go camping on it.
It is. It's a camper.
It's very different than sailing, although you're on the water. I mean, I love being on the water. There's nothing competitive about it. It's 100% just experiential. It's a little boat that the two of us kind of get away on.
Yeah.
So literally, for
And
me,
you guys
it's like an RV
We
on the
actually
water.
bought that before we sold Chippewa.
Yeah.
And you guys have gone cruising as well. I mean, is it something, because that's one of the things that we found this summer in us being able to do the Great Lakes tour with the limited amount of people, was the benefit of just doing seamanship training, right? This is something that we skip, right? We go into, well, let's go straight upwind and straight downwind. Like, whose idea was this? You know, everyone's looking around going, this is stupid. How about like green and red and anchoring and putting the mast in the boat and hooking up the wiring and all of those logistics and all that stuff? You guys have done some cruising. What do you guys think about cruising?
When you're racing, you know, you rely on whoever's taking care of the boat to deal with all that. Yeah. So we never did that. But now we have the powerboat we have dealt with, and it's just the two of us. It's nobody else.
There's no Tony?
Guess who takes care of most of it, Ben?
Yeah, thank God I got her.
Ben, guess who takes care of most of it?
So we just got back from a little me and her cruise. You know, the head was leaking. We had to fix the head. The generator overheated. We had to screw around with the generator. You know, it makes you more self-sufficient.
He's first like, Nancy!
You know, you got, I mean, there's no, you
That's
know,
his first comment, or he makes some wisecrack about, did you hear that noise?
yeah.
Yeah.
So on the race boat, we had the whole entourage, right?
But somebody always took care of it. But now we have to deal with it ourselves. And
Yeah,
you're right,
this
with the whole
thing-
seamanship thing, I think that's what's great about a smaller boat.
Makes
Is
you
that
learn
you
navigation,
have to learn
and
it.
you know, it's on you.
You have to learn
You
it.
know, you gotta learn.
Yeah.
You gotta learn
Which
how
is
to do it.
actually
all.
really what. All right, so I'm going to tell the funnies. So we had our cruise this past weekend. We went from Cuttyhunk to Nantucket, and it was really windy. And we waited for the wind to die down a little bit, but we didn't realize. And luckily, it was downwind. But we had this big following sea down Vineyard Sound, and we literally were surfing off the backside. It was like a video game watching Clay, because he was on the wheel and the throttle. And it's probably one of the few times we've had to actually.
It's pretty hairy. The boat was underwater.
And we're looking ahead of us, and we're looking at these huge waves that are breaking, and we're like, all right, maybe we ought to just peel off and go to Edgartown and not go to Nantucket tonight. But then it would flatten out a little bit, and then we were like, let's go. So we went through we literally went off one wave, down the other. You know, luckily we're inside, and water's cresting over the top, and then you hit the other wave. So doing 19 knots off a wave, and then hitting the other wave, and now all of a sudden you're only doing 8 knots. So it's just like.
And I'm fantasizing. I'm George Clooney in Perfect Storm, right? I got it all going on. I'm just like, you know, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, but typical mom, as everybody calls me, I'm like,
Yeah.
never have I done this, but I just started thinking, you know what? I should know where the life jackets are. And I actually do know where they are. But I'm like, I should make them more accessible. So I literally pulled them out and put them on the floor down below. And I'm like, okay, so they're accessible. Because you just have to think that there's this moment where you think something could go wrong that is much experienced as both of us are. You can't take that for granted. And so you just have to say, you could get a weird wave that sends you sideways and gets you broad to the waves, which can roll you. Although we have a really great boat, but still.
It was a little squirrely though. The boat was all over the place.
So I got the life jackets out, and then I didn't tell him this until we got to Nantucket.
This was funny.
I actually made a ditch bag.
She comes up from below with a ditch bag. And I'm like, is this a comment on my driving? What's going on here?
It wasn't a comment on driving.
Should I be nervous?
You know what's funny? I was actually never scared.
Hugging the EPIRB.
I was scared.
I was pretty much, I was hugging the EPIRB. No, but I was actually decided that if something happened and we rolled or something went weird and we didn't have that, how stupid would we look? We would look ridiculous if the experienced people that we are, we took it for granted. And that's what went through my head. It's like, you can never take it for granted. And we were absolutely fine. We got there with absolutely no worries. We were fine. But it made me think about, you cannot take the water for granted. You just don't know what it's going to do and what's going to be. And as experienced as both of us are, if something did happen, we rolled and we were not prepared, that's stupid on our part. Because we listen to the radio all the time on Channel 16, and they're the people who are done all these crazy things. And I'm like, that would never be me. I wouldn't do that. But if you're not prepared, you never know. So that was our
and you guys keep going back. You got a good boat. That's a good thing to have.
Yeah, definitely.
So that kind of gets me into a couple stories, and so usually we cut this off like an hour, so we got about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, we're enjoying it.
So campaigning, and this is where the truth fact checking is going to be, very, very big part of this when we replay it on YouTube, and we'll have Hoey go back and check to see if the story's true. But I wanted to ask each of you, and I don't think that people really understand like the amount of fun that these two have provided many sailors that are even on this call right now. I see Tripp in the right-hand corner. You guys have provided so much entertainment over the years, not just from our big dinners to, enormous dinners that seemed like they lasted for 7 days, which I think they did. We went sailing in between dinner.
Exactly.
And the late nights and the dancing, the music, the t-shirt cannon, the wakeboarding on floorboards, the close calls with the bridge in St. Martin. There's just the list keeps going. There's one story that I need clarification on that Hoey tells whenever he's a coach.
Uh-oh.
And that is the donkey in the bedroom.
Oh my God! I have never laughed so hard in my life.
That's a true story.
Okay, so here's the thing: is that listen, Clay. We've never had the story from your side of the story.
All right. Well, I'm going to start telling
you. It's always been the idiots putting the donkey in the room.
I'm the one who had to wake him up to show him what was going on. So yeah, Hoey.
Okay, well then, so there we go.
So
take us back. Where are we?
We're in Antigua.
Set the stage. We're in
Antigua. It's, we've had a big night somewhere, out to dinner, whatever. We're all most of us are back in our bunks or whatever, at this incredible house that we had rented.
Yeah, we're all staying ashore.
And I wake up hearing this noise outside. And it sounded like somebody was breaking into the house. And I look out the window from our bedroom. He's sound asleep. And I see Hoey and Sammy Lefbro pushing this donkey into Jack Slattery's bedroom. It was Jack and Dougie Bell. And he's literally pushing it. And then he wouldn't go, so they started laying popcorn.
Well, the donkey's got his 4 feet against the door jam. The donkey's dug in.
He's like, no way, I'm not going.
And these morons are bouncing. They're bouncing off the donkey.
I don't know where the popcorn came from, but they start laying popcorn down to try to get the donkey in there. So I go to wake Clay up, and I'm like, Clay. Clay starts like swinging. Like, what are you waking me up for?
It's like 3 in the morning.
No.
2 or 3 in the morning.
You're gonna get up and look out this window. This is hysterical. The two of us are now rolling laughing just watching the scene. So of course we didn't go down and try to stop it. You know, we just watched it. And they pushed the donkey in there. They finally got the donkey in there, and then the two of them giggled their ways out of there.
Slammed the door behind it.
So the next morning, or I don't even know how, it was probably must have been like 5 in the morning
6
now.
in the morning, 5 in the morning.
Dougie Bell wakes up to a donkey, like his lips, like right on his face. And, you know, Dougie, he's probably thinking it's some girl or whatever. But Dougie, it's like, he gets to go, and then they wake up Jack, or then the donkey goes over and wakes up Jack. And now Dougie and Jack are trying to push this donkey back out. It was
the same thing. The donkey's dug in, 4 feet on the dam. They're trying to push the donkey out. And then the donkey takes off. The donkey takes off.
So supposedly Hoey bought the donkey for the night.
And it was Jocko's donkey.
From Jocko's donkey. One-legged Jocko.
Rented the donkey.
Right, rented. Right, sorry, rented, not bought. Yes.
Yeah. And what rented it was past the time.
Yeah, Jocko is way more vindictive than like Enterprise Car Rentals.
Jocko came looking for his donkey.
And the guys on the call should know Jocko is this one-legged guy. He's this Antigua guy, sadly pretty drugged out. He's kind of a wacky guy, and he needs the donkey. It's like his sole source of locomotion and his source of income. So Jocko is hopping around on one leg going, where the hell's my donkey? And he comes up to the house with some local island boys who were big dudes.
Well, the donkey got kicked out a long time ago, but he came up to the house.
With some bouncers. He comes up with some local
like,
boys.
You owe me more money. And we're like, Hoey.
He's like, where's my donkey?
Hoey.
So part of the story that I had never heard until this year when Hoey told his version of the story, which is very similar, so we're not missing a whole lot of parts, was that Tony, the boat captain, who really didn't know any of this stuff was happening, was pretty upset because it was getting close to dock call and people were asking him for more money because they didn't return the donkey in time.
Oh, well, to try to prevent Hoey from being killed by these bouncers.
Right. Well, Hoey wakes up to realizing that the donkey had eaten all of the prize flowers at the house you guys rented as well.
Right.
So you might not have known that was part of the piece, that Hoey was flower shopping, pulling a donkey at 6:30 in the morning, making his way to the boat. He said he made it, and you guys had a great day the next day.
Yeah, we made it.
But I think that those were the kind of stories that were part of the Chippewa crowd.
For the Warriors on the call,
there was also the pink Cadillac.
Every unit needs one person on the team who's a quality guy, but is like the team moron. And Hoey was the team moron. We went into this like high-end seafood place for a crew dinner. He dove in, he's swimming in the lobster tank. They had a lobster tank where
in St.
he's swimming in the lobster tank.
But in St. Martin, you and Hoey were in the trenches putting twigs in your hair. So don't blame just Hoey. You were there too.
I was trying to support. I was supporting my wingman there. I was taking care of my.
But Nancy, we can't. Clay can't be the moron of the team if Hoey takes that spot. It's just backup for it at that point.
Yeah,
it's really not anybody's fault.
Supporting Hoey.
He was our team.
Everyone needs a backup for a backup for a backup for a backup, because there were a lot of pranks and sleeping in the pool in St. Bart's as well. So that was one of the stories. But out of the highlights of the actual sailing, not just the family and network that you guys have built and the funny things that we kind of did off of the water, can you think of, like, let's get 2 highlights from the Chippewa days, and then we'll talk about what you guys have done over the last couple of years, and we'll wrap it up there. Can you guys do 2 highlights from Chippewa?
Well, I'll do one, and why don't you do one? Probably my greatest highlight, which I'll share with the Warriors, because I think it's ultimately a story about sportsmanship and what the sport is all about. Roy Disney, who is descended from Walt Disney, of the Disney fame and fortune. Roy Disney is a huge sailor. Unfortunately, he's now deceased, but Roy was, a world-class sailor when I was a pup. And when I showed up with the Big Swan, we ended up competing with Roy a number of times. and he had huge boats and pro crews and super successful. And Ben, you may remember when he had Pyewack at 86, the 86-foot cannon keel, unbelievable boat. And when they first got going, they kind of won everything. It was them and Hasso Plattner. They were winning everything. So we go down to the BVI and we do this race. It was like a feeder race to the BVI regatta. And it's just a race all the way down the Sir Francis Drake Channel that's going to end at Virgin Gorda at the bitter end. And it was like probably like a 50 or 60 mile race. It was like an all-day race. And the breeze completely crapped out. And every single boat in the race dropped out except Pyewacket and us. And Pyewacket is just launched. And then they'd hit a hole and they'd completely stop and we'd like creep up on them. So we did this tortoise and hare thing all day. It's like 90 degrees. There's no breeze. We're getting delirious. Pyewacket finishes way, way, way ahead. We've got the glass. We can barely see them, but we know we're kind of in touch with them. And if things go well, we're going to beat them on corrected time. So we're sailing the hell out of the boat. It's almost sunset. We get to the finish line. There's no race committee. And we read the sailing instructions. There's no time limit in the race. There was
a time limit.
It's unclear.
There was a time limit, but we made the time limit.
We made the time limit, but the race committee's gone.
Race committee's gone, but Pyewacket kept track of the time.
So we self-score. We radio in. We're trying to find the radio in. We self-score. And the results come out, and worst score did not finish, and Pyewacket wins the race. And I'm kind of disappointed. I talk a good game about how much fun sailing is. I'm very competitive. We worked our tails off, and you know, it didn't end well. And I'm like, okay, get over it. So a couple days go by. Now we're doing the BVI regatta, and Pyewacket's like the belle of the ball. They're doing great. So we go to the prize giving at the BVI regatta, and a buddy of mine, Robbie Haynes, you probably know Robbie.
Yeah.
Robbie was he and Benny Mitchell were like key guys with Roy, and they're good friends. And they came over and they said, Clay, Roy would like to see you. I was very flattered. I didn't know him that well at the time. I got to know him very well later, but I was flattered. Wow, Roy Disney. But he said, he wants you to bring your whole crew. And I'm like, wow, what's this all about? So I don't know if we're going to.
What we do.
Yeah, I don't know if we're I don't know if we're gonna brawl up into high school or what's going on. So I get all my guys and we go over.
Principal's office.
Yeah.
So Roy comes walking in. He's got everybody from Pyewacket. That was a big boat. He probably had 25 guys, and they're all lined up. And he's carrying the trophy from the feeder race. And he comes up and he says, Clay, I want to give you this trophy. I know you won it. And I said, Roy, what are you talking? I said, we didn't win it. We were disqualified. And he said, no. He said, we were actually watching you. We were already ashore. We had put the boat away, but I knew you were in touch with us. And they went up to the heights from a villa overlooking the finish, and they had their clock on us. And they said, Clay, you beat us. They said, Clay, you beat us. We saw you finish. We took your time. We did the math. You beat us. And I said, well, Roy, that's not what the scoreboard says. He said, I don't care. I know you beat us. He said, this is your trophy. I insist you take it. And, you know,
us a trophy.
I mean, that to me, I'll stop there. That's probably my fondest recent sailing memory, because it said a lot about how the sport kind of should operate. So
yeah, I love that. That's how it should work.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
You guys still have that trophy, or do you get lost in a container someplace?
Sitting around, I'm looking at it. It's right here, right here in the living room.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably my favorite trophy because of what, you know, the whole story and what it meant.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially now that he's gone, it's kind of my, you know, my little Roy Disney thing. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Nancy, you got a highlight? I like that story.
Let's see. We were I can't remember if it was Sardinia or Saint Tropez. We blew up all the kites.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm doing bow and Chippewa.
Saint-Tropez, we broke all
And
the
we're in
boats.
Saint-Tropez, and I've got Tobes as my backup bow person, mid-bow guy. And, you know,
Brutal day too.
Jack's in the back,
Freezing cold.
yelling,
October.
you know, the orders and all that, what's going on, and, you know,
Crappy day.
we're just trying, it was windy and all that, and we're trying to, and so we put up one kite. I'm just gonna keep this short and sweet. We put up one kite, it blows up. So we had to take down all the, what's left of it.
Well, and then I ran it over. It blows up and then I ran it over.
And then we put up another kite. And as anybody who's done bow before, it's really exhausting up there, the ups and downs and all that. And we put up another kite, that one blows up. Literally, this all happens within 20 minutes. We blew up almost 3 kites, I think.
We blew up 3 kites.
And one
And we've
went
got
in the water.
like running rigging under the boat. We've got gear under the boat. I mean, it was just.
And Tobes and I at one point
Nightmare.
are just looking at each other, and we are gassed up on the bow, and we just look at each other and we're like, are you fucking kidding me? And Jack's, of course, in the back, like, put another one up, put another one up. And I'm like, you get up here and do it. Come on, bud. But it was like, so, you know, and they're not encouraging. So we get another one up. We finally do, we finish the race. And then Preston, I don't remember Preston, our navigator, luckily he pinged where we lost the kites over the side because they were just shredded. One of them we got back.
We found it.
We literally went back.
It was
found
floating.
it. It was still floating.
And it had all the gear attached. It had the sheet and guys still attached. It was a miracle. So we retrieved the whole thing.
We got the whole thing back, and
Did you put it up to dry it?
literally they sewed it back together. Believe it or not, I don't know how, but anyway, that was probably my most exhausting time on the bow of Chippewa of any others.
She's being modest too. It was an epic performance by, you know, Ben, as you know, there's probably not another 45-ton boat that sailed with a girl on the bow. I see
All right, I'll
that.
do one more quick story. This is a funny story. In Saint-Tropez, we were with, we were racing, I forget who we were racing against, but anyway, we were crossing, you know, port starboards all the time with all these different boats. And we just got silly on Saint-Tropez, where I had this puppet, literally it was a pig. And I forget why it happened, but some of the crew had it, and I was like, okay, give me that. And we're doing a crossing, and I'm calling the crossing because we're on port and they're on starboard, and we have to duck. And I'm up there in the bow with the puppet thing, doing the, the people on the starboard crossboat are looking at us like, what the hell is going on over here? It was pretty funny.
Well, they always kind of looked at us that way. Our dinner with Wendy Schmidt, you know, there were a lot of entertaining times that we've had
Wendy loved us.
together. I mean,
Wendy made t-shirts for us.
nice.
One year she made t-shirts for us with Pumpkin, my little white dog, on it because we raced against her. No, Wendy and I, we're good friends. It was pretty funny.
I love that. Well, it's kind of coming to the end. There's like a couple questions that I usually ask each person kind of get that we do these interviews with. And a lot of the people that we've done the interviews with have had either direct exposure to being at one of our camps as one of our coaches, or they've sailed with Warriors on board a Warrior boat. I know you guys did 12-meter worlds last year, which is something that I'd like to highlight, that you've been in touch with the foundation, and you guys have had experience with Ralphie and the foundation, the boat donation program, with that experience. And so, you know, how has that been? And they're a huge funding source in what we use our boats. I mean, obviously we get these boats in on donation. You got to use one last year for 12-meter worlds and sail with the mighty Ralphie. And how was that experience last summer?
Well, I love Ralphie. I nicknamed him the German leprechaun. And he, you know, he's just one of those guys you meet in any walk of life. He happens to be sailing in this case, but you know, Ralphie's just a difference maker. He's I don't even know where to go beyond that. I mean, he's huge heart, huge talent, super committed. And his life's work is, you know, providing resources for the sport and providing resources for all of us. And I actually don't know the whole story of how he found his way into that. I wish I knew more about it. but I think he's, you know, Ben, he's a lot like you, frankly. You're one of those guys. You know, the great thing about our sport is there are people who use the sport as a vehicle for just doing really good things. And Ralphie has dedicated his life to that. I'm a huge fan. He's an outstanding sailor.
Yeah.
And he's an even better guy. So yeah, last year, you know, through Ralphie, we were allowed to sail Enterprise in the World Championship. And unfortunately, we came up short. It came down to the final race and, you know, we came up just short. No regrets. It was, you know, I was so proud of the team. A lot of people thought we didn't have a chance because we were brand new to the boat. It was all kind of a last minute thing with an unproven boat. And the boat turned out to be certainly good enough. And it was a great group of people.
Yeah.
And we left it all on the field. And, you know, in a way, it came down to that last race. And it was pretty dramatic. We had gear problems. And I think people really respect the effort we put out.
Yeah.
And, you know, we almost brought home the bacon, but
Considering we jumped on the boat late May.
yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It
was fun to watch from the outside.
Yeah, it's all about a good team.
Ben, when I was a kid, I had a 12-meter scrapbook. You know, some kids have like baseball scrapbooks and football scrapbooks and, you know, my dream was to grow up and like be an America's Cup sailor. And obviously it never happened. This is the next best thing. I mean, I was sitting, every day I'd get on Enterprise and I'd pinch myself and I'd say, you know, Lowell North sailed this boat. Dennis Conner sailed this boat. You know, I mean, it was just.
And now your name's added to that.
Yeah, you know, it was like, you know, I'm a Pittsburgh guy. It was like getting to play football in, you know, in Steelers Stadium. I mean, it was
what other
like,
sport do you get to do that in, right? That's pretty cool.
yeah, it was cool.
And so a lot of people have made kind of announcements on this show. Now that's a show, I guess we can call it that. The Warrior Watch. Rob Windsor talked about going around the world. There's a little bit of noise about Mike Hennessy maybe doing some double-handed offshore racing. So you guys have the CNC in Newport. You did some 12-meter sailing, and you go power boating. And the Beetle Cat. Don't forget about the Beetle Cat.
Cat. We have a lot of shields too.
Got a shield.
And shields. Okay,
Yep.
so you guys are going to shield sail.
We race Wednesday nights in the shields.
Is there anything else on the horizon? It's always
We have a huge announcement. Nancy's with child. It's a modern miracle.
You're ridiculous.
That's so good. I love it. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, right. No, my kids.
Well, I guess what I always say is that the network and the family that you guys have built. I mean, there's a reason every time I open my drawer to put a belt on and there's the Chippewa belt, makes me just smile because I just think of all the good times, and thank you guys for always providing that awesome experience. Hopefully we can all get on the water, and the Warriors that are on this call, we're going to have some pretty cool people, you know, that are part of the program continuing with us that are going to be ready for that next invite when you guys are up and at 'em, and there's some things that you guys want to do. I know that there are Warriors that are itching to get out with some good people, and you're high on the list for recommendations.
Yeah, Ben, let me make a
The
deal.
Shields is actually a great boat to take them out on.
Yeah, Ben, let me make a deal. Any Warriors who you want to back, who want to go sailing, just call me. I'd sail with any of them any day. And I really mean it.
Between the Shields and the 30, we can get them sailing.
Okay. That sounds good. And then next time we have a camp, I know I've invited you guys before to be coaches. And I know Clay thinks that, you know, you're the only sailor in the family, Nancy, but either or both of you need to come to a camp when this COVID thing is under wraps and we've got some things going on.
We could do like a comprehensive course where Nancy could teach them like on the water behavior and I can handle what to do ashore.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is a golf and Chippewa retreat, nudist colony, donkeys in rooms, and all of the events. You know, I've kept it really clean. We haven't even talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that's what families don't do on the internet.
It's a family show. It's a family show.
But I will take you up on that. I'm kind of like Ralphie. If you tell me something, I kind of make it happen. That's the way it works with the Warriors. So you heard it here, Warriors, and it's going to be on YouTube. You know, if you guys are going to be in Newport or around that area for right now, and then we'll try and get you guys out to a camp. But
yeah, let's go sailing. Let's go sailing.
I can't. Thank you guys very much for taking the time on a Thursday night and having the chat. And it's always good to see you guys virtually, of course.
Ben, great to see you. Please come see. We miss you. Come see us. We haven't seen you for a while.
I know. I haven't seen you guys either. We'll make a trip out. But thank you guys, and thank you Warriors for chiming in. If you guys had any questions, if you guys want to send me an email, I can shoot it off to Clay and Nancy. I don't need to take any more of their time. But thank you all very much, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you, Warriors. Thank you.
Take care.
See you guys.
See you guys.
See you, Ben. Good to see you, Clay and Nancy.
Good to see you.
See you.
Yeah.
Yeah.